From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, December 12th, 2017 meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. We're going to begin today's meeting with our flag salute, and that's going to be led by Jordan Kaufman, our Kern County Treasurer Tax Collector, and we'd ask if you would please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer.
Thank you. Please join me in saluting our great flag. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, if you'd like to follow along with our agenda this morning, they are located in printed form on the two tables near the exits. And we're going to begin today with our consent agenda. All items listed with a CA above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. So at this time, I'm going to read the consent agenda items. Starting on page 2, items 1 through 4 are on consent, as well as items 7 and 8. On page 3, all items 9 through 15 are on consent. And on page 4, item 16 is on consent. Are there any members of the audience who'd like to make any comment on the consent agenda? Mr. Fox, please come forward. If you could state your name and then make your comment, sir.
Hi. Good morning. I'm Dennis Fox, and I'm here on item 9 and 10.
Okay. What are your comments, please?
And let's see, our governor has finally figured out that we're having longer fire seasons, a little climate change, and there's nothing we can do about that much. The only thing we can probably alter is the fuel load in the county and in the forest, and there's more impacts on that. All that stuff, that smoke that we've been having, and has been getting to me quite badly, is because of the fuel load we can alter. But that's all smoke, is all carbon. They want carbon sequestered, not released. I think we should be eligible for to get the equipment to alter the fuel load from cap and trade. I would like to see that's another option. This thing really, the problem up there is when you got dead trees, the sun is out and your snowpack goes, so we don't have the water storage in the snowpack. We have mud flows after the fires that go into the reservoirs, and it decreases their capacity, which impacts our local economy, and also, which is ag. And Sacramento, the Department of Water Resources, DWR, or delays while rewriting, and they have this thing going with kind of a boondoggle. We will pay billions and get no new water, and that is a problem because when they're going to go for bond issues, when you get that stuff at the state level, at your level, it means they're going to get some surprises with some more unfunded mandates. I know you love those. So anyway, after the fires, we start getting the floods, and I'll get into that later, about the impacts from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other comments from the audience, please? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board, ask if any board members want to remove an item. Otherwise, I'd request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion on consent. Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. And we now will return to page 2 on our agenda. With item number 5, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. So do we have any members of the audience who'd like to make a public presentation? We ask you to state your name and observe our 2-minute time limit. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Deborah Gable, and I'd like to address, I basically came on a different route, but I'll come back at 2 on that aspect. I have a couple of properties, and what I'm just one little pea in a pod. There's a lot of properties out there that are boarded up, and the bank are foreclosed on. It's approximately almost 1,100. I called the county on it, the code compliance, that department, and that's how I came across that number. That's just ones that are in compliance. And what I'd like to make address to you guys, maybe you guys can come up with a way to get a solution here, is that if we can come up with a less expensive way to enforce properties to improve other than the way that we're doing it now, as to an order obtained in a code compliance law or issued. Like, for instance, it costs me, a homeowner, which I don't mind because it's my duty to take care of this property, mind the banks. It costs us $70 for a code compliance officer to go out there and put a piece of paper, or you know what I mean by putting a piece of paper, to tag the property saying that it's, you cannot enter. $70. Okay, so I'm not saying that's unfair. The point, what I'm saying is that all these dollars add up, and what I told you, the board, approximately 4 months ago, that I would never pay that, because that house was filed in bankruptcy, and I'm not obligated to pay that. And the bank won't take this house back, which I offered to donate this house to you guys, along to code compliance, along to my church. Now I'm donating this house to Habitat for Humanity. They're going to take it, and we're in the process of giving it to them. But I don't want to go into all that. My thing, what I'm here right now, is I like to, if we can start some type of, I don't know, organization or some type of chairman, some type of something that we can get going where it's not so expensive to go out and have people go out and border up these homes that they're going to turn around and get knocked down.
Ms. Gable, what I would suggest is if you could give Mr. Alsop, could you raise your hand so she can see you? If you could give him your contact information, we will refer your information over to our code compliance division and ask that they on the staff level, we start with a meeting with you, and you can talk through your concerns and your ideas that you have, and then we'll ask for them to report back to us. Do you know which district you live in out of the 5 of us up there?
You mind saying the address?
Oh, the address, my personal, the property is 611 Irene Street.
Okay.
It's 05.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Let's start with, it's on the PM agenda? Okay.
Yeah,
So-
it's 2 p.m. I'll be here.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
what it is it was only scheduled that I had $2,000 that you
Okay.
guys.
Well, then if you're speaking to an item that's on our PM agenda, then I'd
Yeah,
ask that
I'll be
you
back.
return for that, because this is for items that are not on our agenda, public presentations.
What I'm speaking today is not on the agenda. I'm talking about something we need to take care of, an issue that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public presentations, please? Good morning.
Good morning, David Fluhart. Wanted to say happy Christmas season, holidays, and all that good stuff. And I got a new hat. It was given to me from the Behavioral Health Department. Not from the department, but I forgot his name. Jeez, I'm sorry. Mr. Walker, LMFT, gave it to me. So I wanted to say it's nice to wear a different hat once in a while. It's clean. And with all this Christmas spirit, one of the happier Christmas stories that I've seen here at the board is a couple of years ago it was the old marijuana system, $1,000 a plant and whatnot. And I remember it was a tragic story about two retired ladies in Oklahoma that ended up in a bad situation, and there was like 160 small plants in a tin metal shed, and it was looking really bad for them. And at some point, the rationale or the rational thinking of the board came together and said, okay, this rule is kind of goofy and whatnot. And I wanted to say that was a really good day that the board reached beyond what the rule was and saw logically what was going on and that there was a problem. And it was a really good Christmas story, and if they were to make a movie out of it, I'm sure it'd be really popular. But so in this Christmas season, I hope we keep that thought in our mind of helping other people when something bad happens, or when something just unforeseen happens, or things fall through the crack. And I appreciate that you guys can stop and recognize and look at that. And that one example of Oklahoma was just beautiful. You guys stopped the situation and corrected it. And, beautiful Christmas story. And that's pretty much my 2 minutes. So thank you, and have a good day, and Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year's, and see you in the new year, next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fluhart. Merry Christmas to you. Any other public presentations? Okay, seeing none, we will move on then to board member announcements or reports. Anything from the board members?
Chairman. Supervisor, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gleason, please.
Mine would be real quick. I noticed on item number 3, Miss Jill Sloan Thurman has signed up again for another year at the Kern Valley Public Cemetery District. I'd like to shout out to her and say thank you.
Thank you. And Supervisor Perez, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick reminder, we're collecting toiletries and socks for foster youth at the Dream Center, and we'll be taking it over to the center next Monday, the 18th. So you can deliver stuff to my office if you'd like, or attend there, December 18th, Dream Center for foster youth. Toiletries, socks. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Okay, seeing no other requests, then we'll move on to our final agenda item for this morning, which is item 17. This is an item under the Treasurer Tax Collector. This is a hearing to determine the rescission of the tax sale deed for parcel number 255-300-48-005 in Lebec, sold in the March 2017 tax sale. And we have Jordan Kaufman, our Treasurer Tax Collector. So Mr. Kaufman, when you are ready, if you could please start us off on this item.
Thank you. Is this on? Are we good now? There we go. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you said, this item before you is a hearing to determine the rescission of the parcel number that you mentioned. I'm going to give you kind of a summary of the issue, talk about some of the facts related specifically to this parcel, talk about what your options are, and then provide my recommendation. So on March 27th, 2017, my office conducted a public auction of tax defaulted properties. Pursuant to the California Revenue and Taxation Code, within 1 year of a tax sale, the prior owner can request that the sale be rescinded. Where the buyer at the tax sale, the new owner, refuses to rescind the sale, the Board of Supervisors must hold a hearing to determine if such a rescission is justified by the circumstances surrounding this particular parcel. A determination that the rescission is justified would void the sale, would authorize a refund of monies to paid at the tax sale by the new owner, and then the filing of a rescission tax deed back to the previous owner. So for this particular parcel, the new owner, Mejia USA LLC, purchased this parcel in the 2017 tax sale. Then on July 27th, 2017, our office received a petition to rescind the tax sale from attorneys representing the prior owners, Raul and Linda Gomez. Rescissions of tax sale deeds do occur periodically for various reasons, and don't normally require a hearing by your board because typically the new owner would agree to the rescission. In this case, the new owner has refused to allow the rescission, thus requiring your board to make the final determination pursuant to Revenue and Taxation Code Section 3731. So the prior owner has requested the rescission through an attorney, and that request is attached in your packet as Exhibit A. Mr. Gomez is claiming that, among other things, he never received a letter, certified or otherwise, concerning a default, and he states that he receives his mail at P.O. Box 507, Lebec, California, 93243. Notification of this hearing was sent via certified mail to all parties involved, the prior owner, the prior owner's attorney, and the current owner, pursuant to the R&T code. Prior to the sale, delinquent notices were sent out every year to that same P.O. Box address. And in 2013, a pending power to sell letter was sent certified mail to that same P.O. Box address, and that is included in your packet as Exhibit C. My office does undergo a very rigorous process to determine the correct addresses and entities to be noticed in a tax sale. We follow the relevant R&T code sections and the detailed guidelines that are provided by the State Controller's Office to determine the parties of interest. And a party of interest is really any person or entity that has an interest in the property, either ownership or lien holder or whatever. The process begins with a party of interest report that is generated by a title company, and that includes all related recorded documents for that parcel, and that report is included in your packet as Exhibit D. Next, our office utilizes a skip tracing service through Thomson Reuters to produce the last known address for each party of interest. And this is an important step in the process of us doing our due diligence, because many of the documents, recorded documents that are included are old, they can be 10, 20, 30 years old. And so we use a skip tracing service to make sure that we try and find the last known address. So in this case, a certified tax sale notification letter was sent to the address of record for the assessee at the P.O. Box number, and that is included as Exhibit E in your packet. And this is the same address that is on all the grant deeds for Mr. Gomez, and the same address that is stated in the rescission request letter. The certified notification letter was returned by the post office as unclaimed. And what that means is that it was delivered and received at the post office box, but was never picked up by the owner. Because of this, I believe we did fulfill our legal duty to notify the owner. However, there was one sort of irregularity related to this parcel, and I will explain that. So, pursuant to Revenue and Taxation Code 3704.7a, it specifically says, in the case of a property that is the primary residence of the last known assessee, or the fact that the mailing address for the last tax bill is the same address as the property, the tax collector or his or her agent shall, in addition to any other notice required by this chapter, make a reasonable effort to contact in person the owner occupant of this property. And I will say this personal contact was not made. This is a very unique parcel and a unique situation in that This parcel doesn't have a street address. All it has is a legal description. And so as we were building our tax sale list, of which for this particular sale there was 995 parcels, we flag those parcels that are required under this code section to have a personal contact. This one was not flagged because it did not have a situs address. And so there was that irregularity. However, the code does say that while a personal contact was not made, failure to make a personal contact does not invalidate the sale, and that's stated in Revenue and Taxation Code Section 3704.7D. So because all the other notice requirements were met, it's my opinion the prior owner does not have sufficient justification for rescission. And so from a revenue and taxation kind of code standpoint, we believe that there is no justification. However, it is certainly something that your board can take into consideration as you look at all the evidence to make a determination. So the options before your board, obviously you can choose to rescind or not to rescind. If you decided to rescind the property back to the prior owner, I would recommend that you make it contingent upon the following things: that Mr. Gomez shall pay all back taxes, including all penalties, interest, costs, and fees accruing up to the date of the sale, in addition to any current taxes that have or will become due upon the date of the rescission. Should require the payment should be made in certified funds, for example, a cashier's check. And my office has calculated that amount due as $15,893.44, and a breakdown of that amount is included in your packet as Exhibit F. And so I would recommend that if you were to rescind, that you make it a condition of those of that payment. And then should your board decide not to rescind the property back, then no further action would be required. And so at this point, the recommendation is obviously to open the public hearing, receive public comment, and close the public hearing. My recommendation is to deny the request for rescission because we did fulfill all of the legal notice requirements to contact the owner. However, it is at your board's discretion which way you want to go. So that concludes my my statements. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you want to go to the public hearing, and that may generate other questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Are there any questions for Mr. Kaufman from members of the board before I open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing, and now we'll receive public comment. Are there any persons here that would like to make any comments on this item? Please come forward. Ask you to state your name. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Scribner. My name is Olaf Landskard. I represent Raul Gomez, who's present, and he's the I guess referred to as the prior owner of the home at 1000 Lebec Road in Lebec, California. On behalf of Mr. Gomez, first of all, Merry Christmas, and thank you for taking your time to hear our case. One of the things that occurred to me that there's a maxim of law before I get into my presentation a little bit is the law prefers substance over form. And in this case, you've heard him admit that they didn't give any notice, personal notice, which is otherwise recommended or I think mandated by the Revenue Taxation Code at his personal residence where he lives, and he'll tell you about that a little later on. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Gomez. He's a constituent of Mr. Couch in Lebec. He's been a constituent of the District 4 for over 40 years. He would like to be able to keep his house, and that's what we're here to do, is ask that he would be allowed to, if you rescind the sale, and allow him to go ahead and pay those back taxes, the amount you mentioned, and keep his home. In fact, Mr. Gomez's neighbor has, at the time, you'll hear on March 24th, made a credit card payment, and they told him, well, we can't take credit card payments, and they returned the money to him. That same neighbor has put up the money for him to pay the old $14,450, and he'll make up the difference, whatever makes the $15,000. But let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Gomez. Before we get to March 22nd, 2017, when he made his first visit to the tax collector's office, on September 27th, 2013, is where our story really begins. That's the day that Linda Gomez, whom you notified, she died. Raul and Linda had found out 10 days before that she had cancer. They had met in Lebec in 1975, where she worked at the Western store in Lebec. Supervisor Couch, you may remember that is, which is on the property at 1000 Lebec. In 1980, they started dating. Raul said to her, you know, if I win the team roping over in Cayama, I'll take you out to steak dinner, and that's what he did. In 1989, they were married. Raul is a modern-day cowboy. He started working at the, so we got the right name of the ranch here. Santa Medio Ranch there, which is about 190,000 acres ranch west of the 5 in the Lebec area. He and his dad, Jose Gomez, worked there, and he worked as a cowboy, which means he also knows how to shoe horses and build pens and do everything that a modern-day cowboy has to be able to do. And they were married. He brought his paycheck home and gave it to Linda. Linda paid the bills, including the property taxes. After Linda passed on September 27, 2013, Raul paid the property taxes. A year later, October 10, 2014, Raul's son, Rowdy Gomez, died of heart failure. 2015, Raul paid the property taxes. 2016, Raul's back to working as a handyman. He's too young for Social Security at age 62. He's too stubborn to apply for disability. He works jobs around town and for his neighbor, Paul Reynolds. Paul owns the neighboring property where he has what is known as the Gentle Jungle, which supplies animals to the movies, including my favorite animal, Clyde. Some of you might remember Every Which Way But Loose. The Clint Eastwood, there's an orangutan named Clyde, and Clint Eastwood says, "Right turn, Clyde," and Clyde sticks his fist out the window and hits another one of Zach's former constituents who passed away recently. That was, I can remember, but his son now works for the Community Service District there at Roseman, the head of the Black Widows, if you remember, if you follow the movie. At any rate, more recently, Paul Reynolds has been providing animals, including the camel in hump days and a white horse in ice crystals. And recently, Raul prepared a special shoe to place on a horse that looked like he was limping. And it's at the house, there's a movie out, it's on HBO now, it's called Water for Elephants. That's had to make it appear lame. Water. The tenant in the Western store now is Dennis Penna, who's here today as well. He wants to create a thrift store there and gift store for the shelter on the hill. Dennis has been there for a long time. He's been using it primarily for storage, but as I mentioned, I don't know if you have that as part of your information, because I don't know. I know we sent that late last night. I'm not sure if the clerk got it, but there was a receipt that we submitted showing that we had made the payment, I guess what would have been for the 2017 taxes. Did you get that? It's part of the packet? Okay. And Mr. Reynolds was prepared to pay the whole thing on March 24th by credit card, but that was not something that's allowed. I guess it has to be by cashier's check or cash. And at any rate, let's see if I get here. Another thing that it's interesting is of all the procedures that were followed, nobody bothered to send a letter by regular mail. They sent it by certified mail. When that wasn't claimed, it went back and regular mail would still be in the box. He'd been able to pick it up and read it. That's how he paid the 2016 taxes. They were late. And you have the receipt in there when he paid that. He came in there and paid the 2016 taxes in June. And nobody told him that he had 6 years taxes due from 2007 to 2013 when Linda was taking care of the taxes. Well, let me introduce you to Raul Gomez and let him, maybe I can ask questions from him to help him he can tell you his story and why he didn't get paid on time and why he'd like to be able to pay it today. Mr. Gomez.
Good morning, Mr. Gomez.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Raul Gomez, R-A-U-L-G-O-M-E-Z.
Where do you live?
And I live at 1000 Lebec Road.
How long have you lived there?
Approximately 37 years.
And is 1000 Lebec Road the same property as listed as the APN number in this case?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Mr. Lansgard, you're going to have to move the mic a little bit closer between the two of you to be able to hear what you're saying.
Okay, I'll speak into it when they need me to. And who did you live there with from 1980?
My wife, Linda.
And when were you married?
July 9th, 1989, I believe. I think.
And were you working?
Yes.
And what did you do with your paycheck?
Turned it over to her.
So she paid the bills?
Yes. For a long time, I didn't even know how much money I really made.
And you lost Linda when?
September 27th, 2013, I believe.
And why did what caused her death? Do you know?
She died of cancer.
And how long?
Stage 4.
How long did you know she was ill?
I didn't know she was ill basically until she was taken to the hospital.
And how long before she died was that?
10 days. She was totally eat up with cancer.
And prior to 2013, who paid the property taxes as far as you know?
She was in charge of all that. I didn't know anything much about any of what bills were being paid other than my paycheck was going.
Okay. Now, prior to 2013, had she closed the store?
Yes, it had been closed for a while.
And where did she work after that closed?
She worked at the Caravan Motor Inn in Gorman. She was a restaurant manager, waitress.
Well, how did you find out about the fact that your 2016 taxes were late?
Through mail.
And the 2017 tax sale, did you ever receive anything in the mail about that?
No, sir, not a thing.
And nobody came to your door and mentioned that to you?
No letters, no personal visits, nothing. In fact, I had no idea it was even up for sale.
How did you find out? Because you did come eventually before that.
One of my friends texted me and said, "You need to look at the newspaper. I think your property's going up for sale." And when I did, that's when I came down to the office down here to try and make the payments or figure out some way if they would allow me to make payments. And they said, no, I couldn't, that I had to pay all the back taxes all at once, with a check or cash, whatever, but I would have to pay it in full.
Did you return on the 24th of March to get it paid?
After I talked to them, I went and tried to get the money all set up and everything. And when I came back on Friday with money, they said, no, I had to pay it totally in full, the whole $15,000 or whatever, $14,000 it was. And they said I had to have it in there by 5 o'clock. Well, there was no way I could have done that. And I talked to my neighbor, and he said, well, be down there Monday morning. I'll go to the bank, and I'll get the money for you to pay your taxes and all, so you can keep your property. Well,
who's your neighbor?
Paul Reynolds.
And how long have you been with Paul?
see, 50 some years.
And what does Paul do at the neighboring property?
He has animals for the movies, and I work part-time for him in between doing other things. And so he had agreed to give me the money to keep the property. 'Cause, we've been neighbors and friends for so long. He thought that would be in the best interest of everything.
So do you know Clyde?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 different Clydes, basically, but he had one of them. And
how do you know Clyde?
He tried to kiss me one day.
And did he succeed?
Oh, yeah, he did.
What did Clyde think? What did his trainer say?
He said, you better give him a kiss. And he put his hand around my throat and just pulled me down like I was nothing. And I'm no small person, but I felt very, very little compared to him. But
what was Clyde's reaction after he gave you the kiss?
Well, the trainer asked him if he'd like to kiss, and he looked at me and he just kind of went, smacked his butt and flipped me off. I figured, well.
Now, did you design something recently for a show that's on?
Yeah.
What show was that?
Water for Elephants. I designed a special shoe to put on the horse to make him look like he was lame, and I've done all kinds of stuff like that. I've made quite a few props for him next door, Sled, Paul, and so basically I was done a lot of stuff for him on his movie deals for props and what have you, and make stuff for him to train animals with. So he basically had me on a 24-hour call list. Anytime he needed something, he just call or come over. And that was one of the reasons why he was nice enough to trying to help me out with getting this money to pay the property so I can keep it and hopefully keep
and you have
doing things.
You have in front of you a check signed by Sherry Duman with the California Bank and Trust? Is that
yes.
Right? And that's for $14,455.81?
Yes.
Are you prepared to pay the balance? I guess it's about another $1,400 that mentioned by Mr. Kaufman today?
We can get it done.
Okay.
But he's, I have quite a few friends that I've done a lot of work for over the years. And I'm hoping that you guys would let me keep the place, because there are a lot of people that appreciate what I've done for them, and they know where to find me. So I'm hoping you guys will just please let me keep the property.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gomez. What can you once again? What is the amount of the check that you have there? 14,000 and what?
$455.81.
Okay, thank you. And the remaining balance, Mr. Kaufman. What was the remaining balance that's owed? I think for current taxes, current year.
Yes. The total amount owed is $15,893.44, and that includes the first installment of the 17 taxes that were actually due yesterday.
Yeah, and what's the amount on that? I think he said $1,400 and change.
The difference about
just for the first installment is $641.57. The second installment isn't due until April 10th, so I did not include that as a requirement.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Lansgar, is there anything else?
No, just I offered.
Could you speak into the mic, please? Sorry.
Just to be sure that all the exhibits that were provided by my office would actually be accepted, or I don't know how that goes as far as it.
Yeah, you can file. You can hand it to the clerk. But do we have? Excuse me. We already have them.
You have them all. They're all
Yes.
part of the record, and
Yes.
like make sure they are. If you need a copy of the check or the check itself, we have that. Would like present that as well.
Okay.
But okay, we'll go ahead and present that.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers on this item?
Unless you want to hear from Mr. Penna, just briefly. You can just go and tell them who you are and where you live. And
Dennis Penna, Fraser Park.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Penna, Penna. Mr. Couch. While I have an opportunity, may I thank Mr. Couch for his labors in trying to help us with our library system over there. Some of his decisions have been wonderful in handling personnel that may make us have our libraries forever if they listen to the way Mr. Couch would like to do the things that some of his ideas are brilliant. Thank you. Sorry to digress. As far as Mr. Gomez, I've known him for 30 years. He's him and his wife, Linda. I rent that little shop from him, and I'm turning it into for the animal compound. Anyway, he's not getting a square deal. He came to me in the spring and said, "Don't worry." He showed me this thing in the newspaper saying they're going to take this man's property. Don't worry, it's not me. I have a concern because I rent that little shop from him. And I said, okay, I won't worry about it. And the following Friday, he came to me and he said, guess what? I think we have a problem. I said, well, what happened? He says, that is my property. And this was like in the spring of this year. So I don't think he got a square deal, and I don't think it's anybody's real fault. The post office system, even his address says 1000 Lebec Road, and that whole street is odd. It's all 827s. There's no even numbers on that side of the road, so I don't even know how they can have that address over there. But it needs to be corrected, and please, I think there's some technical things where you can save Mr. Gomez's home. It would be the thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penna.
Thank you.
Any other speakers, please?
David Fluhart. Yeah, this is a perfect example of a good Christmas story. There was some adversity. There was a big decision to be made, and I'm sure you guys will find it for Mr. Gomez there. I think it's pretty much a slam dunk, because the last thing you do just before Christmas is kick a guy out of his house, especially with his reasons for what happened and whatnot. Yeah, this is a slam dunk, and I don't think the new buyers are going to come up here and try and argue for their rights and whatnot. So, feel totally good in your decision to rescind this tax sale, and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Any other speakers, please? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return to the board. This is in Supervisor Couch's district, and so I will go to him first. Supervisor Couch, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the current owner is not here to speak, so I guess that's an even easier process for us. But given the fact, I'm not, this is not a negative comment about your office. I think your office does an extremely good job. But the one item that you claim that was overlooked, the site visit that was not done, I think gives us at least a reason to go with a rescission in this case. But I agree with you, it ought to be conditioned on, could you say that again? I know you want all the property taxes and penalties paid up through a particular date. I've forgotten what you said that was.
Essentially the date of this hearing. today's
The date
date.
of this hearing,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I would like to make a motion to deny the staff's recommendation and move for a rescission of the sale on the condition that Mr. Kaufman just described. Thank you.
Second.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the conclusion of our agenda for this morning. We do have several items to consider in closed session. Item 18 under County Administrative Office, and under County Council items 19, 20, and 21. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session. We are adjourned.